Can I take this off? Hello, my name's Will. Most of you probably won't recognise me because I've not run with it for a little while. I got injured and I got lazy. I'm going to talk to you about shit. I'm an engineer. I know, right? Saving the world. And one of the big projects I've been working on recently is called Thames Tideway. So as you've been running along the river, hopefully you've noticed these big kind of boxes, sometimes cranes in the river, sometimes, and they've got big tideway things written on the side. Do any of you know what it is? Can't be, the answer's not there, so. So Thames Tideway is London's new super sewer. And that is my job, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what happens to your shit when you press flush. So this is London, this is the Thames, we run up and down here, it's very nice. And in 1868, a guy called Joseph Bazalgette designed the sewers. Because basically, what happened was the big stink. So back in the olden times, they used to throw the shit out the window, it went all over the paths, it went on the walkways, on the roads and all of that. So imagine running through that for a start. But also it didn't smell very nice. They call that tough mother, they do, yeah. They call it Brixton. So there was shit everywhere, long story short, and people were throwing it out the windows and it smelled really bad. And nobody did anything about it until it got to Parliament. And it got so bad in 1868 that Parliament had to close down. They were soaking rags and covering the windows with rags to stop the smell from getting in, and Parliament quit for a bit because they couldn't concentrate because it smelled absolutely appalling. Also there was huge outbreaks of cholera because, well, at the time they thought it was airborne, so all this shit was carrying bugs with it and getting people ill and everyone was dying, and London was not great. This is I've been talking through all this. There you go, big stink, hot weather. Also when it gets hot it smells even more. It's really gross. Outbreaks of cholera, Parliament left London, here's some images. Great. So, this guy, Joseph Bazalgette, came along in 1868 and he said, enough's enough, let's sort this problem out. Finally, because it smelled so bad in Westminster, they decided that they would actually put some money towards it. And Joseph Bazalgette designed 100 miles of underground sewers. Now this is Victorian ages, this was hand-dug, hand-built, 380 million bricks underneath our feet, hand-laid by people under the streets of London, which is totally incomprehensible. That would cost a lot of money nowadays. So 1,100 miles of sewer in total are across London. Joseph Bazalgette's original solution was just 100 miles, just 100 miles. Great, takes the waste underground and takes all of that sewage underneath all of the roads and all of the rivers, intercepts all of the underground rivers that we've got in London, which there are many more of than you think. Fleet Street, for example, is above the river Fleet, and that used to be full of shit, so they covered it in a road, intercepted it, and now that runs straight into the Thames and it's full of crap. Aren't we all? So, I don't remember this slide. Population growth. There you go, that's the slide I remember. So, at the time, 1868, the population of London was roughly 2 million people. Which is not many. And Joseph Bazalgette decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to think forwards, I'm going to think ahead. London's going to grow, London's going to be popular. I'm going to go for 4 million people. I'm going to design this thing enough for 4 million people. Obviously, we're about to hit 9 million. That's 150 years ago, we're still using the same system, but he built by hand all those years ago, which is a little ridiculous. We're about to hit 9 million by 2100, I think we're going to hit 15 million people. So something needs to happen, because at the moment 4.2 billion toilets get flushed directly into the Thames every year. 4.2 billion toilets worth of shit in our Thames. Have you ever looked along the side of the river closely? Don't, for a start. Secondly, it is, in the industry we call it ragging. In reality, that's toilet paper and condoms. It's grim. Honestly, it's disgusting. Don't swim in it, you will die. So all the way along the river, there's 21 different overflow points. So every time it rains, we've got what they call a combined sewer system. So we've got rainwater, stormwater, sewage water, all in the same big pipes. So every time it rains and it properly pisses it down, which is a useful term in this case, all of that water goes into one and it overflows. So 50, 60 times a year, that sewage fills up in the system and goes straight into our river at 21 different points along the river. So, oh, here you go, there you go. Millions of tons of sewage, ammonia, bacteria. The EU, for now, has got a wastewater directive. We're totally breaching it. We're breaking the law. We have to pay millions of pounds a year because the Thames is grim, and it looks horrible. Nothing is done. Population to reach 15 million by 2100. Of course, climate change, another big issue. Have you heard about it? Hopefully. The sea levels are rising, people are shitting more. I don't know. That was a quote from Greta, I think. I don't know. So we need a solution. So there's a lot of shit in the Thames, and the Thames is quite nice. It's the middle of our city. That's why we live here. Well, that's why the city's here. So we need a solution. So a few years ago, they came up with Thames Tideway. Obviously, the system as it is at the moment, this hand-built brick-laid sewer, is phenomenal. It's beautiful and it's fine. It's 150 years old, there's a few fat birds in there, but other than that, it's working great. To replace the whole system would have just been billions and billions and billions. It would have totally ruined London, it would have been impossible. So rather than doing that, what we decided to do was to intercept all of those overflows. So every time, all those 21 different sites where the original system overflows into the river, rather than intercepting the sewer, we intercept the overflows. So that that whole system can work perfectly until it really pisses it down, and then we intercept all those overflows and take it elsewhere. I'll explain more in a second. So what we designed is a 25-kilometre long intersection tunnel. So there's a 25-kilometre long tunnel from Acton in the west, all the way along, up to Abbey Mills pumping station in the east. So a lot of this route, actually, a lot of these sites you see on your rerun on Tuesday nights, and on the other ones on Sundays I've seen you running along there. I've never done a Sunday run. I should do it. I'm usually hungover. So how does it work? So, as I said, we've got the original sewer system, which is this one here. I'll talk after this. This one here is the original sewer system. This is where you shit. This is your house. This is the original sewer system, and this is the overflow going into the Thames. This is the Thames, this big blue thing. So our job is intercepting this overflow into a big shaft down here, along and into the main 25-kilometre long Thames tunnel. Clever, right? That's the combined sewer overflow. So we intercept that, and it joins the main Tideway tunnel, which travels underneath the river, straight bang down the middle. It's quite interesting. At various points along the Thames, for example, Tower Bridge has got those things. You might have seen them. And originally the Tideway tunnel was to one side, but they realised that as soon as you dig a tunnel 8.4 metres diameter slightly to one side, what you have is subsidence. So one of the structures might slightly tip to one side, and all of a sudden those things are not going to close, and they're just going to stop like that. Which is really weird to think that if I did my job wrong, Tower Bridge wouldn't close properly. Which kind of puts it in perspective in my head. I think that's really interesting. So we had to divert it into the centre of the river so that the subsidence of those two buildings was exactly the same, so that it wouldn't affect Spice Girls the movie. Rainwater, sewage, how does it work? So this is a this is a sketch I did, I know, right? So what we designed is that overflow is the grey one there. We intercept that overflow, so rather than going directly into the river, it goes down along that red pipe there, down the main shaft in green, along and into this 25-kilometre long tunnel. Here's a snazzy image of exactly the same thing with the district line. Obviously, London's got a load of stuff going on. There's all the tube lines, 16 different tube lines, all the buildings, we're going under buildings, under rivers, under tube stations, under all of these different things. So you can see here the original sewer system, which Joseph Bazalgette wonderfully designed, and then we intercept it, take it down this huge shaft and along into the main river. Got it? Got it. So we have to dig a big tunnel. The package is split into various parts. There's the big main tunnel, and then there's the intersection bits. My job's the intersection bits. This is the big tunnel. It looks more impressive, so I'm sure I'll show you some slides of this. 8.4 meters diameter. To put that into perspective, roughly twice the height of this room in a big circle. It's bigger than the tube. So the northern line is 7.2 meter diameter, and Crossrail is 7.9, and this is 8.4, so it's a little bit bigger than the tube. It's huge, honestly, it's massive. Am I allowed to swear? I assume so. Yeah? It's not shit, so I can't, sorry. I don't know, anyway. So this is the tunnel, this is these big things. So these are called tunnel boring machines, TBMs. That there is just the head of the TBM. That weighs 1,200 tons. That's 1,200 African elephants. That weighs alone. That's just the front of it, that's the drill bit. Behind that is a 200-meter long train that carries all of the parts that put the tunnel in place. This is quite cool. And this is it being lowered down into the shaft. There's 8 of these across the whole of London. Interestingly, they're all named after female engineers. There's a tradition that every single one of the tunnel boring machines is christened. In the mining industry, all of the machines is christened a female name because it gives you good luck. So this is Rachel. Rachel burrows underneath Wandsworth. I don't know. Rachel and Charlotte and some other people have flashed tunnel boring machines. This is the route. The route is split into 3. So there's 21 different sites, split into 3 from west to east. I work personally on the west section, so Wandsworth area, kind of along there, down to Acton, Hammersmith, Wandsworth, and then we switch at Wandsworth at Carwood Road, and then the central section, which is definitely on the route. You'll have seen Chelsea Embankment is on there, Putney is nearby, and then into the east up there. Interestingly, it splits into 3. Obviously, you've got to get deeper and deeper and deeper. It's a self-cleansing gradient, so the difference between one end and the other is about 30 meters. So that means the whole thing is traveling down the whole time, so it kind of cleans itself, so you don't have to go in there so often because it's full of shit. So you start in the west, it's split by 3 different strata, so you start in the clay, go through the sand and gravel, end up in the chalk. So for each of those different things, you've got to have a different cutter head that churns through the different strengths and weaknesses of rocks, which adds a bit of complication, but it's not my job, so they can do that. There's the infrastructure, lots of buildings, lots of bridges, 1,300 buildings. It is involved in this, tunnels, sewers, gas mains, water mains, all of this we've got to avoid. One of the central sites is really interesting. It's just outside the head of MI5, MI6, the big green one, James Bond's one, you know what I mean. So there, thankfully not one of my sites, but they're building this kind of thing outside, but there's kind of no dig zones, and the people in charge kind of go, look, you don't go near there. There are some cables there. If you cut that cable, I cannot tell you what will happen. We're talking big red button kind of stuff here. It's amazing, and actually, to design around what could be an atomic bomb button, it is a bit weird. And they literally, we're not allowed to know, no one on the project knows. We just have a big zone marked in black saying, do not go there, because it's something to do with the government and bombs. There are also, interestingly, there are lots of bombs en route. So you have a thing called unexploded ordnance. So during World War II, there was a lot of bombs involved, and they dropped them out of planes, and some of them exploded and lots of them didn't. So as we're digging along, regularly we'll find unexploded UXOs, unexploded ordnance, in the clay, which haven't yet exploded. You nudge that thing, could blow up. So every time we find one of them, which happens a lot, particularly in the central section, you've got to report it to the police. In theory, you need a 2-mile radius, which, considering the mile is 1 mile wide, so it gets pretty sketchy. You'll see on the news every now and again the archaeological digs find these things, and it causes havoc, bombs. So here's this is my 3D model, very proud of it, I won't bore you with it too long. This is the original overflow, travelling up there. So what happens here is the overflow gets intercepted around the corner, and through here there's various gates and that kind of thing to measure the flow of water, the strength of the water. If we need to stop it for any reason to do maintenance, we can block it all off. So this is underneath King George's Park, which is Wandsworth area. You might have been near there. Sorry, that's all that digging is my fault. So this is kind of, again, probably roughly the size of this room, this chamber. 6, 7, 8 meters deep. Huge concrete walls, 1 meter thick, just to control all this water and make sure the whole thing doesn't fall in. We'll move on there. So we've got all of these different sites. We've got 7 in the west section, there's 21 in total. Every single one has to be completely different because we've got different sites, different intersection areas, different volumes of water. Hammersmith is enormous, it's already intercepting all this water. King George's Park has lower flow. Some of them, so this one is Putney, so they've had to build an embankment out into the Thames. So there's a few areas, Putney, Chelsea embankment, where we've built into the Thames, and it will look like a nice promenade area. And in fact, below you is 30 metres of shit. This one here is King George's Park. It's a very pretty park, and you can sit on these benches with shit beneath you. There's lots, basically 21 different sites in London where you can sit with shit beneath you. Good. The benefits. Why do we need this? What's it for? Seals, the environment, people in hilarious high-vis jackets. Most of the companies on the project actually have made a loss, not because of the construction or any of our work, but because this fancy protection equipment that we're contracted to wear costs an absolute fortune. So we all have to wear this orange and green teal thing, which is we've made ourselves, and it costs a fortune. This is just outside the Chelsea Flower Show. This one will be really nice. But again, you'll know what happens beneath you. Just to give you an idea, planning was approved in 2014. So we have a thing called a DCO, which is a development consent order. So as part of that, you have to have lots of different parties, anyone affected on the route, any residential properties, commercial properties, people with interests, government, local councils. I think we've got 18-something signatures on it. Every single one of them has to agree to every single one of the things that we do on the project, so it can be quite a slow burn. This has been around for a long time, but finally we got it approved in 2014. What year are we in now? 2019. Secondary tunnel lining begins. Oh yeah. So that's when all the TBMs are now underground. They're all boring. 24 hours a day. They're all boring. 24 hours a day they're boring underneath our feet as we speak. All 8 of them are going at the moment. And as they go, they kind of put in these concrete things, and then you spray that with concrete to waterproof the whole thing. And then shit. 2022 we finished construction. Then there's 2 years of basically we fill the whole system with water, and then wait 2 years, and then see how much water's left in it to see how many leaks there are. Thank you for listening. That's Tideway. Yeah, so next time you take a shit, think of me, eh? Lavelle map is a really cool 3D model of all of underground London, and it's really great. Absolutely not, no. So no, because imagine if someone got their hands on all of under London. So luckily the company I work for, a company called Atkins, basically have done a lot of, I've previously worked on Crossrail, so we've got all of where all that is. But basically before you work on any of these things, you do a lot of ground investigation, work out, well, the short answer to your question is, how did we accidentally not bump into it? It's because we planned it and we knew where the Elizabeth line was. But yeah, you have to, there's a really interesting documentary on Crossrail, in my opinion really interesting, where they were burrowing within 10 centimetres of 2 different tube lines. So there's one crossing above the top, one crossing onto the bottom, and the Elizabeth line, it's called the Eye of the Needle, has to go right in between. And there's 10 centimetres above and 10 centimetres below, and the tubes in there are still running. And there's people in there that are dressed in normal clothes, literally just checking that there's nothing going through the ceiling. Because London's got to work. The whole time that we're doing this, we can't close anything. So yes, lots of maps, lots of underground things. We do lots of tests to see what the soil types are. Lots of modelling and crossing fingers basically. Hi. A very good question, and something that when they originally invented at the time it was a tunnel shielding machine they really struggled with because, well, I mean, Channel Tunnel's the prime example because they kind of missed a bit and they had to go again. Nowadays we can have underground GPS. The way that the tunnel boring machine moves, we can basically track it. We know that we go a little bit that way, and a little bit that way, and a little bit that way. But because of the nature of this thing, it's pretty straight. We're not doing any 90-degree turns or anything like that. So it's complicated, but not impossible. No, other than foundations or buildings. So for example, the piles underneath the shard are 120 metres long. So they are concrete, we can call them columns, 120 metres straight down to the ground. So you simply can't go under the shard unless you're the Northern Line, which kind of buggered it all up. But yeah, so yes, there are things that go deeper, but because luckily we're under the Thames, in this case the main tunnel doesn't have to go under buildings because it's underneath the river, but absolutely our kind of intersection areas have quite a lot to do with it. That. Yes, and I'm doing that. They're metaphorically huge because you can't move a bat. Actually, maybe I'm going to change my answer. That was interesting, but more interesting is pigeons. So that this machine, this big thing here, was sat outside my office for 2 years, and basically they did it as a bit of a publicity stunt to be like, oh, we're making loads of progress. We've built the tunnel boring machine. We're ready to go underground with it, and they had to cover it in netting. Because if a pigeon roosted in there, because they can just sit in here, it's nice and cosy, if a pigeon roosts in there, it is very, very, very illegal to move a roosting pigeon. So the whole £5.2 billion Tideway would have been delayed for one roosting pigeon. So they cover the whole thing in netting. I think in reality, somebody would have gone late at night and kicked them out. But weirdly, it's actually the tiny little things, newts and bats and pigeons, that are much, much more difficult to deal with than World War II undetonated bombs or MI5. That's quite tricky, but pigeons, really, honestly, up there. I'll answer that in 2 parts. So it travels from the west in Acton all the way to the east in Abbey Mills pumping station. Abbey Mills pumping station pumps it 85 metres up back to the surface to Beckton Sewage Treatment Works, which is Europe's largest sewage treatment works, and treats it. So it goes back into the system, goes into drinking water. Interestingly, it's got 27 times more requirements than tap water, than bottled water. Tap water, so it's better for you than bottled water, so stop buying bottled water. So yes, it gets up, it gets treated, and the whole system is 27 kilometres long of storage as well. So when it rains, that fills up and fills up and fills up, and then when Beckton can manage, it pumps it up and deals with it. So does it ever fill up? Yes. Currently, the river overflows, the sewage overflows 50 to 60 times a year. Over the next 120 years, which is the design life, so my grandkids will still be shitting in my engineering. Over 120 years, it'll be an average once or twice a year. It will overflow still. Because that once or twice, to get that once or twice would have been twice the cost. And realistically, the water that's going into the Thames by that point is 99.999% rainwater. It's not shit. I hope. That's what the original floater, but my radio show is on Wandsworth Radio, 8 till 9, Wednesday evenings. It's called Desert Island Discs, where we select 8 songs to do with your favourite songs at the time. John's been on it, hasn't he? Your favourite songs, or songs that are inspiration for you, or songs that tell you a story or remind you something, and you also bring in a pudding. And we sit there and we listen to your 8 favourite tunes and we eat pudding. I think it's great. I don't have to do anything because I just press go and chat, which clearly comes naturally, so it's good. And eating dessert is also good. So 8 or 9, one's with radio. It's now called Riverside Radio. I'm not doing it quite at this moment because actually it's 8 or 9 Wednesday now, isn't it? Oh, it started. Live on One's with Radio. Not sure. It's designed, I don't know, it's designed for 120 years. So taken into account then, it's going to be from 2020 to 2140. What are they going to call that? 2140. It's designed for all that time. So that's rise in sea level, increase in rain, climate change, change of diet, population growth. All these things are taken into account when designing for it. So yeah, 120 years, 2140. In reality, it'll probably be a bit longer than that because no one quite gets their act together. Who knows what will be happening in politics by then? Thankfully, we won't be around, but people will still be shitting, so I can assume. I don't know. No, not necessarily. Basically, MI5 just zoned off an area and said, don't fucking touch it. I've not worked on that central section, so maybe they did have to. But personally, no, I'm just an engineer. I just really like concrete. Please don't end on that. We're going to. Good. Thanks very much. What we're doing.